and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 24th of January, 2021. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
It's me.
And Robert Kemp.
I'm on a risky milk adventure.
How expired is it?
Well, it's not that the milk is off, it's that it's real milk.
No, okay.
Because I haven't had real milk for quite a while, because I've been on Alpro.
That is definitely it's one of those things where it's like if you go back to it suddenly, it might make you up even worse.
It tastes weird now.
Is it semi-skimmed or you don't want full fat?
No, it's full fat.
Oh my gosh.
No one's been getting full fat since I went off the milk.
I can't even deal with full fat, and
I used to love it. Like, to be honest, I also used to think there's this is the real deal. This is proper milk. This is delicious. But now cow's milk kind of tastes a bit odd to me. I don't know. Like, I think I like soy milk more.
So you've been doing soy.
Yeah.
My flatmates do oak. Oak?
That would definitely be a good one.
Oat milk. You could probably make milk from oak trees. I'm sure
I don't know
if you
if you could.
squeeze hard enough. I mean,
Professor Oak's in a different business now.
Oak milk. I'm sure if you slot some water through some oak, you can get some milk out of it. I mean, what even is oat or milk or soy milk? Like, how do you make milk out of
You milk an oat.
it?
You get a tiny pair of tweezers out and get going at those oat udders.
The oat udders. Yeah. I think I tried. The only one I've tried is oat, and I didn't like it.
I'm not as much of a fan of oat. It's fine, but I think the problem with like milk alternatives is that I think a lot of them end up giving a cardboardy texture on your palate for some reason.
Yeah, I don't want cardboard tea.
No, I think oat milk is one of the worst for that. I think it's, as I said, it's fine, but like it's hard to describe. It's like a mid-range roughness on the palate.
It's quite a drastic change to the cup of tea constituents, right? Is that what you're drinking? Tea?
No, I'm having a coffee. Well, it's an instant coffee.
Coffee
but,
with milk. Instant coffee with milk. Okay. I drink black coffees for so long. I keep forgetting that you can even put milk in coffee, in normal coffee, because I just think of that as like lattes and flat whites and things like that.
Yeah, it's very rare that I'll drink a black. Like, it has to be from bean as well. Like, black instant is horrid.
Oh, that's awful. Yeah.
But like a black Nespresso is fine. Especially if you get one of the ones that are like an espresso made from a Nespresso machines. Those are actually pretty decent.
Those pod machines. I never really got into those.
Well, they are good. And they make nice coffee, but they're kind of a pain in the ass. Like,
yeah.
And fair play to, I think, Nespresso, because I think they've actually got, because those pods are like really like nightmarish to recycle, and like so they now actually have their own like bag and pickup recycling scheme. So they provide you a bag in which to put all your pods in, and then when it's full, I think you can either take it somewhere or have it arranged for them to come get it.
That's
and
good.
they'll recycle it properly and give you another bag for the next one. So it's like, yeah, good on you. You finally realise that this idea is actually terrible for the environment, despite it making good coffee.
And the machines are really cheap, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really cheap.
What's weird? I don't know.
Yeah. And as I'm learning, they make a pretty decent baseline. If you...
Baseline.
Well, yeah, because they're not quiet. So
right.
when you fire one up, they sort of, most of them have a hum or and they sort of go, and it's like, yeah, you can cut that up into a baseline pretty well.
You sampled that?
Yeah, I've done that. I'm making a whole song about coffee at the moment.
Really?
Yeah, it's really stupid.
Good. Wouldn't want it to be serious.
No, it's not my style. I suppose I've been talking about this risky milk adventure, but I haven't actually sipped it yet.
You haven't started the adventure. You're on the title screen.
On the precipice.
It's time to hit start.
The milk slick precipice of Bowel trouble.
Milkiness.
The suspense.
Well, we won't find out for at least, I don't know, 10 minutes.
Several
maybe.
hours.
Yeah,
Well,
probably.
10 minutes
What
minimum.
happens to your stomach? Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I've been quite light with the milk. It tastes all right. Just, but still a little odd to me now.
Yeah, you go pretty milky, don't you, Zach? I'm
Yes.
very, very, very light on the milk when I do have it.
I mean, I imagine if I had full milk, I'd probably do like half as much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't really care about the creamy aspect.
See, I
That's
love a
how I
latte.
drink tea anyway.
what's your tea drinking proclivities?
Well, because I just basically have it like super lukewarm, so it's just like it's barely tea
Oh,
anyway, and hella milk. So it's like
It's
already,
just like
it's already
lukewarm
weird.
milk.
So it's just like I don't think making it more creamy would make much difference.
Wait, where can you get hold of this hella milk?
Lon Ranch. Replenishes all hearts. Well, no. How many hearts do you get out of
So
Lon
like
Milk?
4,
Quite a lot.
isn't
I
it?
thought it was quite a lot.
Oh, but you
wasn't
get
it?
like 3 swigs though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's like 12 hearts for
Yeah, not bad.
from Lonbucks.
I can't remember.
Lonster?
Did you have to buy it, or you just went and got it? Did you from the ranch?
I don't know. I feel like you might have had to buy it, maybe, or you maybe had to do a side quest before you could get it. That sounds
Yeah,
more likely.
Yeah, for sure.
Is this only in Ocarina, or has Lon Milk been elsewhere?
I only remember.
I bet
from
it probably
Ocarina,
has, but
it's
who
probably-
knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that ranch specifically might have only appeared in like 3 games.
Why? What other games is the ranch in?
Well, there's the Termina version in Majora's Mask, which isn't really Lon Ranch, I
No.
guess, but it kind of is, and Breath of the Wild, where it's just a ruin, so you can't.
Oh
get it
right,
there.
okay, yeah, fair enough. I never really explored that much the Hyrule Town ruins in Breath of the Wild because there's just
Too many
guardians
guardians.
everywhere. Yeah.
The branch actually is more annoying because it's mounted for goblins, and
Ah, that's annoying.
and a guardian, but mounted for goblins are actually probably more of a threat.
Goblins? A threat?
The mounted ones are annoying. Yeah.
And if they're like higher tier than Shitty Red, if they're like
Yeah.
white mountain for goblins, then it's a real
Yeah.
pain in the ass.
I can't remember if I even saw a mounted bokoblin.
Did you get far enough
run.
to see those?
I mean, he
Well, I
did.
never went into Hyrule.
But you probably never went to the more open field kind of areas, I
Hmm.
guess.
No, I guess not. I guess I never went in that general Guardian town.
There's some around where you do the horse race or whatever
Yeah, in the
Hmm.
back of the field.
in the back. Yeah,
And there's the ones that ride the skeletal horses in
Yeah.
the snowfields.
in the snowfields. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I remember those. Yeah, just I remember seeing one on a fleshed horse.
Breath of the Wild. So what's going on? Still lockdown times. Not much
Still
happening.
lockdown times. Still house stress. Still. Well, I guess I haven't talked about it on the podcast, have I? Like, yeah, because it happened just after last podcast. But yeah, I'll be
Mhm.
moving house.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully, we'll have new setups for our casting.
Hopefully, a dedicated room that's not my living room. Well, not a dedicated room. It will also be my general office for things and my gaming PC, and work. But yes, recordings will happen in there. I'm hoping there's enough room for the 3 of us to get in there. That's the next bit of planning.
Right.
Well, I'm sure there is enough room theoretically. It's whether we have the chair arrangement.
Well, yes, there might need to be kitchen chairs rather than sofa action. We'll see. We'll see how that pans out.
And I'll be moving to your previous stage of being able to do it in the living room rather than the bedroom.
So that means you've entered the best of levels. 2.
Is it? Sorry.
Made it to the best of levels. 2.
2 is 2 the best level.
2 is always the best level.
Wasn't aware of that rule.
I don't think it's true anymore, but it used to be kind of like.
Now I'm trying to think of every Sonic game.
Yeah.
What was level 2 of every Sonic game?
I mean, in Sonic 3, it's Hydrocity or Hydrocity.
Hydrocity.
Hydrocity. But in Sonic 2, it's Chemical Plant, which is pretty badass. Well, in Sonic 1, it's that. Actually, the Sonic 1 one's not very good, is it? 'Cause it's that sort of ruins level. I can't remember its proper name, but. Yeah, that level.
I mean, surely level 1 is more iconic in games like the original Sonic and Mario.
Well, I mean, that's the problem with Sonic is that level 1 is always Green Hill Zone.
Yeah.
or the functionally equivalent Green Hill Zone.
Yeah, I suppose Sonic 2 on Game Gear is an outlier because it was that mine, wasn't it? It was a sort of red and orange mine level.
I liked the Sonic 3 kind of autumn Green Hill Zone, Mushroom Hill.
Oh, that's Sonic and Knuckles, yeah.
Sonic and Knuckles, sorry.
Yes, because Sonic 3 was Angel Island. That is Green Hill, basically. It's tropical Green Hill.
Right.
And on fire most of the time.
Only for half of it.
Well, it sets on fire halfway through the first level, doesn't it? Or...
Yeah.
Yeah. So, halfway through the first act of the first level.
Well, yeah, I guess. Kind of. I suppose Sonic Advance 3 doesn't start with Green Hill Zone. Sonic Advance 3 starts with whatever the fuck that level's called, Route 99 or something. It's a weird, like, road level, except, not like Radical Highway Road, like weird. Even weirder because it's 2D. Not like Radical Highway was a functional road in any way.
You get the sort of aquatic level in Sonic Rush as well, don't you? The back-to-back. Well, it has the music that goes back-to-back a lot.
Well, yeah. Is there a green level in Sonic Rush 1? I don't remember.
Yeah, there is. I think in both of them, the opening level is a sort of green level.
Wait,
Rush and Adventure.
How does Sonic Mania start? Does that have a green hill?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
Literally.
It is the Green Hill. Yeah.
Okay. Well, at least that's, not trying to beat around the bush there.
Yes, because
Sonic
Advance 3 does Green Hill as Act 3.
Oh yeah.
It's equivalent of Green Hill. That's the one time I can think of where it's not the first one.
Sonic Adventure had the beach, and then Sonic Adventure 2, of course, has City Escape. So that's a bit different, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, there aren't really.
Technically, Green Hill is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, technically, Green Hill is literally the last level in Sonic Adventure 2.
Well,
it's the secret unlock.
Yeah.
I guess it's getting closer, but the Sonic Unleashed had that Greek island level as its opening.
Is there not
Sonic
a 3D
Sonic
Green
Colors
Hill
ditches that.
in
It
Sonic
goes for the
Mania?
theme park.
Oh, not Sonic Mania. Sonic Generations. Does that
Yes,
not have a
that's
3D
Green Hill.
Green
Yeah,
Hill?
that's also Green Hill.
And level 2 is Chemical Plant, so
Yeah.
good level 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. I don't think this rule holds that far.
No, I don't think it does. But...
Yeah. I mean, thinking Mario
'Cause-
64, Bob on Battlefield is pretty good. What's the second level?
Swamp
Depends.
Fortress, probably.
I think the idea, the theory in my head always used to be like the first level is kind of your intro level, so it's going to be a bit too easy. But you just rock, you play through, you just get through that level. Then level 2 is the cool one, where it's actually like considerably more fun to play. But I don't think that fits with modern game design, particularly where level 1 is kind of your bombastic intro, and then level 2 is actually the tutorial.
Right.
Yes, because but then you could argue like level 1 isn't even a level, really. It's like almost just a cutscene.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was watching my flatmate skipping to not what I've been played, but my flatmate was playing the start of the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order or whatever.
I'll talk about that later.
But that does exactly that. It does the bombastic intro, which was pretty epic, and then it's like, oh, tutorial now.
Yep.
Yep.
And I'll talk about it later.
I'll let you talk about it, but it does that.
that first level's pretty good.
It was pretty awesome. Yeah, we'll talk about that because it was cool. Okay. In that case, shall we do news then?
Yeah, just cracking on. Yeah, why not? Just break open the news vault
Because
there's nothing in there.
there's nothing
There's
there.
not a lot. There's
Except
not a lot.
Microsoft being weird and screwing up.
Yeah, so let's open with that. Microsoft decided to effectively double Xbox Live's pricing. Now, this is standard Xbox Live, as we've had for years and years and years and years. This wouldn't have affected Game Pass at all, or the Ultimate subscription tied to both Live and Game Pass. But yeah, they effectively did away with the yearly subscription, which apparently they did that a while back. Actually, they got rid of the year mark, but you could still buy it in 6-month chunks.
Right.
And it was roughly the same price. But yeah, that's roughly $60 a year in American money. I forget what the UK rate is. But yeah, they were going to double that to 120. Like, so the 6-month part subscription would cost you $60 instead. And it's like, that's quite the hike. And as you might imagine, the ever calm and obedient gaming community kicked up one hell of a storm.
Right.
And it didn't take long for Microsoft to suddenly go, oh boy, yeah, this was clearly a mistake. Let's not do this.
So you're saying, so this presumably is to try and get people onto Game Pass Ultimate, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
That's where
But, like,
Microsoft wants everyone.
If you're the kind of person that just buys Call of Duty and FIFA and plays that online all year, you don't need Game Pass, do you?
You don't need Game Pass, and Game Pass isn't going to benefit you if that's all you play.
There's still people like that, right? Who just play Street Fighter or FIFA or...
Absolutely, yeah. Very much still a thing. They'll buy FIFA every year, or they'll buy Call of Duty
Or
every
Call of
year,
Duty,
and that'll just be their thing. It's, yeah, absolutely a thing.
Seems crazy not to think that those people, are important.
Well, maybe they don't want people to be one gameaholics. It's just them being like like some kind of altruism that's just like, hey, you should play other games that maybe don't have guns in them. Hey, come and look at Game Pass. We've got other stuff.
So it's probably more like they don't make enough money off just selling a console any longer. They're like, we actually need to sell you some games as well, not just one game.
I mean, maybe, yeah, maybe the Series X launch hasn't been good for their balance, and someone in management was all like, "Hey, we want more because that's what management does."
But was
I
it
don't
that
know
they
how the
actually wanted
series-
more money, or was it that they wanted people to be put off enough that they'd get the other package?
Yeah, good question. Good question.
What do you need to get the equivalent with Game Pass? Just you need to get Game Pass Ultimate, do you, to get?
Game Pass Ultimate, yeah, which in the UK is £11 a month, and that gives you full, as if you had Xbox Live Gold, and also
And the library.
and the library on both Xbox and PC, and gives you access to Xbox game streaming.
I mean, it's good, but that's like as much as Netflix, if not more, isn't it?
It's about the same price.
About the same.
I mean, you can get the base level Netflix is like £6 or something like that if you don't
Yeah.
care about HD or 4K or any of that jazz.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still a hell of a bargain. Honestly, I think £11 a month for
Yeah.
Game Pass is a great deal. But you have to weigh up the fact that it is still. I mean, Game Pass Ultimate alone, if you think about it, actually, if you add it up in UK money at least, what is it? That's about £132 that adds up to
Sure.
a year. And there are plenty of ways of getting hold of subscriptions for cheaper than that. There was a good one recently where, of course, EA Play is now merged into Game Pass Ultimate as well.
All right.
On Xbox, not on PC. So you could buy EA Play subscriptions on the cheap because people were trying to get rid of them.
Right.
Or more places were getting rid of them. And there's a conversion rate that's pretty generous. So you can get your Game Pass Ultimate subscription for slightly cheaper.
I mean, the thing with this is like, well, it is good value, but you have to be wanting to play. I know there's loads of choice, but like, it's a bit like It's a bit like having Netflix, but then you still have to, you still have to buy Cyberpunk if you wanted to play it, So it's like,
Yeah, I know what you
you
mean.
are.
It's not. It's well, yeah, it's like Netflix, and except you're not getting the Marvel films on Netflix.
Yeah,
right? You need
yeah.
you need Disney Plus for that.
yeah.
And it is that sort of situation. There's no, you don't get everything. You're not going to get every brand new release, but you are going to get all of Microsoft's own releases.
Yeah.
On there. It's just
So
a
would
shame
you
there
get
aren't really
Halo
any of
Infinite
them right
on
now.
there?
Yeah,
Does that
Halo
come
Infinite is 100% going to be on Game Pass
on day
The
one.
next
Oh,
Forza
okay.
will be Game Pass.
Oh, that's fine then. It's a bit like
Gears of War 5
Netflix
when it came out.
exclusive
It was
appear there. Yeah.
Yeah, Gears 5 when it came out, that was Game Pass day one. So
Okay.
yeah, anything Microsoft do in house
So
is
that's
on there.
now that's every Bethesda game as well, I guess.
Every Bethesda game, yeah.
I mean it's good.
Well,
Anyway,
except the ones Bethesda have already put out. It'll be everything going forward
yeah, okay.
because they've got different publishing deals for that.
What is going on with the new Elder Scrolls? Like they need to put out a Skyrim.
It's in development, so they
Yeah,
say.
but they've still got to get through Starfield first, though, right?
I mean, who knows? Starfield might not happen. We've only ever seen, or of either of them, we've only seen a title card, right?
Yeah, but I think Starfield was still meant to come before Elder Scrolls 6, right? Was the original plan?
Yeah, I think Starfield's been in development longer. So you'd hope.
They're going to have to somehow make it modding friendly. This Elder Scrolls 6.
Oh no, yeah, I mean, they'll try their best to make it not modding friendly though, because you know what Bethesda are like. But maybe Microsoft will just go, no, you trying to make mod stores? No.
Oh, come on, you've got to recognize what was good about Skyrim.
What, all the creepy sex
You recognise what
dungeon
was good about
mods?
Skyrim was having the community be able to fix all the bugs for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what mods were actually for.
Exactly.
It's not about content.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
Was it Elder Scrolls or was it? It might have been Oblivion, where someone made every single book in that game unique
Right.
on every single bookshelf.
I mean, I thought the books in Skyrim already had a lot of text.
Yeah, there was quite a few. But you did definitely get repeats. And there was that one fucking book that was tied to a quest, and every time you picked it up, it would tell you about the quest again.
Phosrodar.
I suppose they haven't said whether there's a Fallout 5 being built yet. And
Because they're still on 76.
I mean, it's a stupid question at this point, but is it a new engine?
You better hope so.
Because he comes out in interviews saying like that people ask that and they don't know what they're asking anymore because that's not how games work anymore. Like it's always based on some old code base, and it's like yes, but you should probably just start again with Unreal Engine, you idiots.
Yeah, maybe don't use your one.
Jonathan Blow actually has a great development talk about how our inability to know what's underneath software will eventually cause the end of civilization.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's so many layers of abstraction. But to be honest, like by the point that you've booted up your OS, a human being would struggle to understand what has happened. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people that understand every part of the Linux kernel, but I don't know. There's many fewer that understand the Windows kernel. It's so complicated. And then everything is just built on top of that.
Yeah, layers upon layers upon layers. At some point, if you lose, but that's the thing. We're getting to the point where that was his point. We're getting to the point where the people that made all the original stuff are getting old.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
and there's no one really filling in that gap. Was his argument? I don't know if that's true or not, because presumably they still need someone to know that stuff.
I mean, it's capable. It's not impossible. Well, obviously, it's not impossible, but it's totally feasible to read and understand old code, right? Or existing stuff. Like, it's just harder than if you built it yourself or in a team with others.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know, that's always been my beef with web tech. It's always just felt like layers upon layers upon layers.
Oh, it is. Yeah. I mean, the web.
I'm not leveraging that purely at web tech on its own, but like that's the easiest example, right, of how that stuff has gone. Anyway, that's a bit of a
I mean, web is the super high level compared to almost everything else. But then I suppose in-game scripting, that's arguably even higher level, right? Because you've got a whole game engine, and then on top of that, so if you're working in, in the language of Unreal Engine, or that's pretty high level, right? I don't mean the shaders and stuff. I mean when you're actually scripting the game.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think a lot of that is actually custom built for each game, and then you use something like Lua to control it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That kind of scripting language, that's pretty high.
It's high in a different way. It's high on it's high level on a structure you've built in those cases.
Well, unless you bought it from Epic or whatever.
Well, no, but even when you've got an engine, you need whatever your game does, you need to be able to script, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's pretty tailored.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Lua seems to be the language everyone uses for that stuff.
Yeah, well, if it works.
Yeah.
It's probably more appropriate than Python or JavaScript or something.
Talking of Bethesda, they announced a game. Do you want to know what it
is? Yes.
Indiana Jones.
Da 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 ba ba bum.
Yeah, Bethesda are making an Indiana Jones game. They want in on that Uncharted money.
Indiana Jones and his desktop adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hope so. I think they could probably manage that without struggling.
You reckon it'll be a point and click?
I just hope he's whipping snakes like on the next tile. So, because this is part of this Lucasfilm Games thing, right? Where it's no longer like EA exclusive licensing for Lucas stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool.
Because Ubisoft announced a game as well. That they were doing some sort of open world Star Wars-y thing, signaling the end of EA's exclusivity.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, as Jedi Fallen Order proves, which I'm sure you'll get onto, ripping off Uncharted is not such a bad plan.
I thought, I'm not sure it leans so much in the Uncharted direction as Jedi leans more in the Dark Souls direction, honestly.
Well, yeah, it kind of does both, doesn't it? Yeah. There's a lot of sliding down things.
Oh yeah, there is definitely ice surfing.
I mean, skipping ahead, but at the start of that, when you were literally on a fast-moving train, and then a Star Wars train, and then a Star Wars helicopter starts shooting at you while you're on the Star Wars train, and then you're hanging off.
Yeah, and then you're climbing up a dangling bit of train.
A dangling bit of train. It's like,
hey, Uncharted, we saw you.
Anywho, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, we don't know anything about it. It was a sucky ass teaser, like just panning over a map and some old Indiana Star relics and a book written by Todd Howard. And it's like, oh god, please don't tell me Todd Howard's involved, because Fallout doesn't always come out well. But I guess
Jones.
he is Bethesda.
And the Infernal Machine. that was them trying to rip off Tomb Raider, which was ripping off Indiana Jones, and now they're going to need to rip off Uncharted, which is ripping off Tomb Raider, which is ripping off Indiana Jones, right? Is that right?
I mean that's the most interesting thing about this is like, what direction are they going to take with it?
Yeah,
like, is it going to be more? I mean, I hope it's not combat. I hope it's not Uncharted. I hope you're not wielding AKs. Actually, because that's Uncharted. Right. That's like Indiana Jones is more. I don't know. Maybe it'll be Batman combat with a whip.
Yeah, that could work. He does a lot of punching, doesn't he?
Fair amount of hand to hand.
And will it have vehicle stuff, do you think?
He did just shoot a guy once, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
One of the like films. A comedy bit, though.
Yeah. But he totally just shot a guy.
Yeah, maybe it'll have duels like Red Dead, except the other guy's just got a sword.
Yeah, they'll have to do that once. Yeah. Still, it's a different direction, though, for a Bethesda game.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it'll have Nazis like Wolfenstein. I hate these guys.
Mm-hmm. It's got to have some sort of military outfit. It's got to have goons.
Yeah. What
nondescript
did they do in
humans.
that Crystal Skull? They just made them Russian, didn't they? Because it was set after the Second World War.
Yeah. Yeah, Russian.
That's actually appropriate in that case.
Well, except they wouldn't say yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, they might as well be saying, because they're basically stand-ins for the Nazis, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Derp. Yeah, so we got that. What else did we get in news? New game news. New Pokemon Snap.
That's what it's literally called. That
Yeah.
wasn't just Rob calling it a new Pokemon Snap game.
New Pokemon
No,
Snap.
they're still doing that stupid new tag, but like, well, except it's the first non-Mario thing for them to do the.
I
What
don't know
other
if it's the
Nintendo
first
games have
one.
had? Yeah, what else have Nintendo made that have just had that new tag on it?
Don't know if there's a way I could search for that to find out. That's kind
Yeah.
of too generic.
It's kind of awful, isn't it?
How's it looking?
It's looking like the same. Well, it's looking like the same thing that we said about the first trailer of it. Can we have a Pokemon game that looks like this, please?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
God damn it!
Where's my Breath of the Pokemon? That's what everyone's just been asking.
But again, like, it's not technically being made by the Pokemon Company. I guess it's being made by Bandai Namco, which then also is just like another indication of like the Pokemon Company are just too lazy to actually make Pokemon any longer. They just shit out Sword and Shield, whereas a totally separate entity is like, let's make a game that actually looks good and animates
Yeah.
well.
I don't get it. Like, I've never understood why they don't make the big Pokemon game. It's so obvious.
I mean, like, I think we probably said at the time where it's just like it seemed like Sword and Shield were just too rushed. Like they just
They were
had to get
clearly
it.
DS games, weren't they?
Yeah, they had to get it out for the Switch launch, and that was it. But like, they should have done a better game.
And the Switch is the perfect console for the big Pokemon game because it's portable.
But then, of course, when you're talking about Pokemon Snap, then the question is just like, let's hope it has more content than the original.
Yeah, you could complete the original in like an hour or two, couldn't you?
Yeah, it was very small. And how many Pokemon are they going to get in out of the however many there are now, like 1,200 or something?
How did they even justify selling the N64 cartridge for when the game was that short?
It's a bit, yeah. Well, because Pokemon hype was probably at its highest then.
Yeah.
And also,
Right.
3D. They were still selling stuff because, Pokemon in 3D was exciting.
Yeah, Pokemon Stadium, packet full of
Yeah.
weird mini games because otherwise there's nothing here.
Yeah. Other than you get to see a Blastoise, I guess.
And probably the most important feature of Pokemon Stadium, you could play Pokemon
Yeah.
on your TV.
So
That you could.
let's hope new Pokemon Snap is good and like maybe has more content and more features than the original rather than just looking good. Because it already looks good. We can see that much.
I can confirm that searching for games that start with new is pretty much impossible. I'm trying. I found Giant Bomb just has a list of every game that's Nintendo published, but they're all like got massive pictures on the mobile version, so it's a bit tricky to actually scroll through quickly. New. So he's talking about new. Do we want to talk about the New York Times article?
I don't know, do we?
Maybe we don't have to.
I don't know what they're. What is the article? What's the big deal? It was something about how in lockdown kids are using a lot of screen time, right? Which everybody is.
Yeah, and there was about one dad being worried. Well, one family, I suppose, and maybe not just the dad, but the dad was quoted as being worried about how much time he spends on his Xbox, and that and that the kid described his phone as being his entire life, and it's like, well, kids do that.
Yeah,
like
teenagers do that.
That's not just because of lockdown, Dad.
Adults do that too.
Yeah. Oh, my phone's my entire life. I'm on Insta.
How does Instagram work in lockdown times? You can't. I guess.
I mean, it's exactly the same as always did. You just take pictures of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's less. You can't go out in the world and take pictures of shit. You have to take
No, it's
pictures of
just-
shit in your house.
Yeah, but Insta's built upon a foundation of fake lips and
Right.
food shots.
Right. So you just make food in your house and take pictures of it. And then...
Yeah. Or as my Instagram, no, it's Pinterest that seems to suggest gaming rigs to me. It's like here's nice gaming desks, and it's like, well, yeah, I suppose I was looking at desks a while back. Well done, Pinterest.
Is it Pinterest or Pinterest?
Pinterest. It is Pinterest.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Instagram. I don't know. It's like, I'm amazed by people like breaking lockdown rules and then taking photographic evidence that they're breaking lockdown rules and putting it on Instagram. For their,
I'm doing it during my exercise time. It's fine. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this lockdown is particularly taken seriously, if you know what I
No.
mean.
Which is
Like, people
horrifying
just-
when there's so many more people in
When it-
hospital than there
yeah.
ever have been before.
It's so much worse. Yeah, people just go out and be like, I'm just going to go to the shops. It's like, are you? Why? Do you need to right now? Is this your 1 hour of exercise? I suppose it could be. But
Is that 1 hour of exercise thing actually in place these days? I don't think it is. I think it's unlimited exercise still, isn't it?
yeah,
I wouldn't go out for more than half.
It's not the same. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that 1 hour was back in lockdown 1.
Yeah, but they should just put that back. I mean, why not?
There was a Yoshi's New Island. It's not quite the same.
What? Oh,
In the new, back to the Nintendo's like new thing. They did a Nintendo's new Yoshi's New Island. Still trying to find other new tagged games. They do have a very satisfying list that's 1,234 items long. Satisfying. Yeah. So that was that. I mean, that would have been a very boring ass casual, like video games are bad filler story any other time, right? But this was on the front page of the New York Times.
I don't really get that. I mean, there's a lot going on in America at the moment. I think
Yeah.
they'd have plenty to put on the bloody front page.
Yeah. What's going on? Well, did they have a story that they wanted to put there and it at the last minute got
Yeah, maybe
censored?
got
Or
pulled or
something.
something. Yeah.
And so it's like, what have we got on top of the filler pile? Video games are bad. Okay. That'll do.
I don't think it's necessarily even just video games that's the problem. It's just like all of everything.
All of everything. Yeah.
All of everything is bad. Now that would be a great like title. Like I'd that's a headline.
All of screen.
All of everything is bad. See, now I'm actually just getting back to New Super Mario Brothers 2. So like maybe there aren't that many news after all.
I feel like a decent video game is like pretty good quality stuff to consume through a screen compared to most of what people look at.
Yeah. Well,
Like crappy
Unless
New
it's
York Times articles.
unless it's the onslaught of hentai games on Steam, but you know.
Yeah, well, if you're into that.
I mean, there's a lot of them.
There are honeypot. Are they making a sequel to Hateful Boyfriend?
I don't know if that
Already
counts
make
as
a
a
sequel to
hentai
that.
game.
Oh, probably. There's probably a whole franchise.
They made a Christmas addendum to it. I know that much.
Oh, really?
I think it was called Holiday Star or something. I don't know if they did any DLC for Dream Daddy or anything like that.
Ew.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
like... I think we may have mentioned this on the podcast before, but they took down that that advert as you come off the A14 to get on the M25. That was just this giant billboard on the side of the road for sugardaddy.com.
What? I've never seen that.
It's been It was like there for a decade.
Sugardaddy.com.
it's like- Yeah, and it's now gone. It's now something less entertaining. But
Is that for? Stupid question. Is that for girls to find sugar daddies or vice versa? I guess both.
I think both. Yeah, both directions. You need the dudes to find the ladies, and the ladies need the dudes to find them. Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
It's not quite. Well, I mean, maybe it is as bad. But there was that other one that was literally a adultery site, right?
Oh,
the
right.
News.
Yeah.
Whatever that was called.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Which,
Didn't that get hacked? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously that's a
famously
target for
got-
hacking. Yeah,
Of course it is.
I mean, you're really risking a lot by using that. What would happen if you went on there and you were totally single, but you pretended you were married? Would you get in trouble?
That's a very good question. They'd probably be quite relieved at the end of it. To be like, so, you mean you're not married? Oh, excellent. That makes this easier.
Convenient.
I don't think they're looking for ease. I think there's a specific other reason that they're looking for
Yeah.
that specific kind of relationship.
It's true.
Oh, but the other person still gets the thrill they're seeking, presumably, and the other one just gets some. Still win-win.
It's win-win, except for the terrible, awful pain you're causing.
Yeah, of course. Oh dear.
Right, I think that might be the news. It's time for what you've been playing. And I want to ask you, Zach, what you've been playing for the past couple of weeks.
Well, luckily, it's not going to take very long to talk about, I guess. Well, maybe. I always say that, but you never know. I played quite a fair bit of Stardew because
Oh,
I
yeah.
hadn't played it since the 1.5 patch came out at Christmas time-ish. But supposedly this patch is mostly like year 2, because supposedly the idea is that year 2 was kind of dull because it's basically you're just doing everything you did in year 1 again. Because
Right.
that's kind of how years work, I suppose.
Yeah.
But there was like not much that actually like unlocked in year 2 usually. So now they've tried to introduce some stuff. So I haven't really seen any of that yet. Supposedly there's maybe a tropical island that you can go and visit, which is like a new. Because I
Okay.
mean, you could already go to like the desert. That was a thing before, and they already added a new cave in one of the previous patches. So I don't know what this new tropical island is about. But apart from that, I also have been obviously playing the new farm layout, which is kind of weird. I feel like they maybe didn't commit hard enough because the thing about this farm is it's the ocean, like the beach farm.
Right.
Which, firstly, I was kind of disappointed because I figured that like it would actually be on the beach, like in a different place on the map, but it's actually in the same place on the map. They've just like changed the map to have like this giant inlet where the ocean comes in.
It's not really a beach then.
No, it was kind of a cheap maneuver. I was kind of hoping it would be actually like at the beach because then that would like change how easy it is to get to different places. That would
Right.
be more interesting.
So you're in the same top lefty corner.
Yeah, same place that it always is, and with the same like exits and everything. So that's
is a bit
maybe
cheap.
slightly disappointing. But the other thing about it is that the soil is like more sandy, so you can't use sprinklers, so you have to manually water your crops. Which is like, that's sort of a challenge mode, I suppose, because
right.
sprinklers always made it super easy. Because
I'm not quite- Why would you not be able to use sprinklers on sand?
I
though?
don't know, because it drains the water through faster. I don't know, because the sprinklers only go off once a day in Stardew, right in the morning.
Maybe.
But
Still sounds dumb.
unfortunately, they didn't really commit very hard to that because there's a patch of normal dirt on that farm, but it's like under a bunch of like stuff that you have to have upgraded tools to get rid of. But once you get to that point where you have those tools, so you can break the stuff, so you can get to that dirt, and obviously you already have access to the sprinklers by then, and then you're just like, well, that's a big enough patch that I can probably just only farm on that one bit, so it completely negates the whole like difficulty of this farm.
So even though it was meant to be challenge mode, it was
it's challenge mode for like 2/3 of a year. and then it's back to normal.
Isn't that what happens with a lot of scenarios in
strategy
games?
I guess
things?
like all of the other farm designs have been kind of like that, where it's like you don't really use their special thing after the first year or so. You just get into the normal methods of doing stuff inside you, normal farming techniques. And there have been a few like little extra new things that I've come across. There's a new mission board where it gives you like bigger missions rather than the 2-day give me a singular item missions. They're more like you have a week to kill this many enemies or harvest this many resources or whatever. But the rewards for those have been kind of interesting because they seem to be related to, well, they seem to be special items related to the person giving the quests. And like one of the first ones I got was from the scientist dude who gives you the farm computer. And if you can craft that and like put it down outside, you can just right click on it and it just tells you like a bunch of information, which is like super useful. It's like, here's how many crops you haven't watered, here's how many crops are ready in the greenhouse, here's whether there's anything in the cave for you to go harvest. So you can literally just like step out your door, access the computer, and then you can know whether you have to go into the greenhouse or the cave, so you don't have to waste time walking over there to go look.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's very useful. Maybe too useful.
Right,
Yeah.
because it's playing part of the game. But
Yeah.
but that doesn't sound that fun, going and checking on everything every single day.
Well, I mean, yeah, that is part of the like late game design goal of the farms. It's just like, how do I arrange everything so that it's like not ugly but also really convenient for me to walk between things.
The minimal effort farm.
Yeah. So that's Stardew. Haven't played that in multiplayer, but that might happen. Who knows? Although we rarely ever get past year one when we play multiplayer on that, so we still would see the new content either way. What I have been playing in multiplayer is Factorio again.
Oh, really? Multiplayer? That's unusual.
Yep, we finally got it together to. Well, it's not a new mod. It's a mod that I've played before, but it had been updated. So it's like we'll go into this mod and play through this. But it's a very complicated mod, which is obviously good, but it has problems of being like too complicated but not in like an unmanageable level of complexity, but more like the design of the mod just can't handle it. Well, not even that. It's more like the person making the mod can't handle it. Because there's a lot of situations when we're going through the sort of early game where you're unlocking a new technology and it's giving you a recipe for like some material or whatever, and it's like it gives you this recipe. That you don't even know how to get. So it's like, why are you giving me this recipe?
Hang on, did the second half of that conversation cut out for you there, Dan?
Yeah, I missed the last part of what you were saying there, Zeg.
Yeah, could you want to say that again?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of stuff times in that tech tree. It's just that it unlocks recipes and buildings and stuff before you could actually use them. Like it will give you a recipe or an item, and it will be like, you'll go and look at it and be like, well, I don't even know how to make the other part of this that turns into this. So it's like the ordering of the tech tree is slightly dodgy.
In fairness, that sounds like almost every time I find a formula in No Man's Sky. Like it pops up and I'm just like, well, at least the way I've been playing it, like where things didn't reveal themselves in a natural order.
I guess, maybe. Although there's not very many like options in No Man's Sky, I suppose. It's quite a short pyramid where it's just like there's 8 things that turn into 4 things that turn into 2 things. But yeah, there's this sort of problem of confusion where it's just like because the other thing about this mod is that obviously because it's so complicated, everything is made in multiple ways, so you pretty much have to have the other UI mods for like searching recipes and whatnot, just so you can be like, how do we make this thing that we need, and can we even do it via the method that we want to at the moment? And then that also breeds another level of confusion where if you unlock something that you can't use early on and you're like, well, we can't use that recipe yet because we don't have this other thing, and then you forget about it, and then like 50 hours later you're like, okay, we've got this new recipe that uses this thing. How the fuck do we make that? And then you're like, oh, it was that recipe that unlocked like a day ago that we haven't been able to use up to this point. And then the other problem, which is more just a general Factorio mod complexity problem, is that because everything is about like upgrading steps, like when you're just extracting resources at first, it's just like dig up the ore and smelt it. But then it's like take that ore and run it through some processing buildings, and then there's like 3 tiers of that where you can process it more and more and more to get more out. But then because of that, you're constantly having to basically rebuild everything because it's virtually impossible to plan ahead to like what the end game will be. You have to just build at the tech level you're at and then just realize that you're going to have to demolish it all, which when you're playing in multiplayer especially is just like our base is just a giant mess. It's just a horrible tangle of pipes going everywhere.
Demolish everything constantly.
Yeah, or you just don't. You just leave whatever was running
leave
and
it
works,
there.
and you're like, I'll come back to that at some point in the future when we've actually got like time and we can be bothered to fix this into the new unlocks and make it better.
I mean, how is that going in some way? Like, 'cause you had problems dealing with other people's designs in the past.
Well, this time I've because this mod is so complicated and it doesn't really let you make the like very organized regimented bases that I usually do as easily. I'm okay with it in this one.
Okay, good.
It's like I can deal with a giant mess. But we've definitely reached the point where it's so much of a mess, and because we've had to be like crammed into quite a small space because of the enemies and whatnot, and the pollution cloud and all that kind of stuff. Now that we've crammed everything into this really tiny space, we're at the point where there's no space left, and it's like, okay, now we're actually, when we expand, we can build stuff like further apart. Let's make sure we just leave room between things now as we're making our expansions.
Do you have like any rules about what jobs each player is up to, or?
Well, we kind of naturally gravitated towards I was doing mineral stuff and the other person was doing animal stuff because there's animals in this mod. Oh, you say animals, it's just like another building that you feed specific resources to.
Crates come out.
Yes, not actually animals. Well, I guess there is technically one actual animal. You can get a special like caravan where you just get like this giant monster that just casually walks around shipping stuff between 2 depots.
Right.
Although, as we discovered last night, apparently it works fine for the host player, but if I click on it, because I'm the client player in this multiplayer server, if I click on it, the server crashes. So I can't interact with that animal in any way. It's like if I want that animal to transport something somewhere, I have to ask to get it set up.
That's pretty dramatic.
But yeah, we've been like, it's because of everything being so complicated, it's quite easy to just be like, I'll just work on this and that will take half an hour and you can finish whatever you're doing and then we'll come in and
we'll regroup.
Yeah,
have a meeting.
Whoever smelts it belts it.
Yep, pretty much. That's a good phrase for that, by the way.
I've been working on that a while.
And then what else? Well, I guess I very briefly looked in because the combat update came out for Volcanoids, that game that I got for Christmas and was sort of waiting on the combat update to happen. But I didn't really play it very much yet. But I had seen some of the preview build of the combat update, and it looks like it's mostly still like that. It still has the same problems, but the combat is better. It functions better, works nicer, but the game in general still has its weird balance situation of there being like basically no reason to ever do combat. Did I actually talk about that? I don't remember. It's the thing where because you're driving that drill and then you burrow underground and then you just drive around and that's how you can like move to different locations on the map.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the underground view, there's like resource nodes that you can just pick up as you're tunneling around. But it gives you like too many. Like it gives you research nodes essentially, because the other way to get these research module things that you need to progress up the tech tree is to attack the enemy drills and like destroy them, and then they drop the not modules. But because they spawn just underground on the map, and there's no threat being while you're tunneling underground, you can just go round and pick them up underground and never have to attack the enemy. It's like it's a
Right.
real bad bit of balance.
Yeah, that does sound like a flaw, or something they just haven't thought of yet.
Yeah, and also like similarly, because if you're parked on the surface and you're relatively near another place where a drill can come up and the enemies come up there, they can send like attack squads. So that's why you can build turrets on your ship. So it's not just offense; it's also defense. But when you start progressing through the story, because the map is sort of broken into 3 segments, I believe, and once you go past the first like third, you destroy this big laser drill thing, and it allows you access to the second area. Mostly the enemies stop spawning in the first area, so you can just go there every time you need to surface, and then you never have to worry about getting attacked because there's no enemies any longer. It's like these weird balance decisions where it's just like there's so many ways to just avoid the actual difficulty of the game. But maybe they'll sort that out. At least now that the combat is like more functional, it would probably be more enjoyable to do the attack and defend stuff than it was originally. So maybe they can force it a bit more.
Right, so it won't be so bad if they take away the ability to avoid stuff.
Yeah, it wouldn't be nearly as bad now.
It could be solved with like some kind of underground fuel mechanic or something. Where
there was talk of there being like a way to have the enemies attack you while you are underground. But I don't know what that would exactly mean, because the
mole men.
Well, I get like the only environment that you could have underground, as in this kind of underground, because there's literally underground caves where you can like surface your drill into a cave and like walk around, and then other drills can come up in other parts of that cave. But when you're in like the map view, when you're just tunneling around, supposedly they were thinking about making some way to have the enemies attack you there, but then that would just be like a couple of enemies would spawn on your ship and you just shoot them. It'd be like there's not much to be done with that, I don't think. Unless maybe they could make some kind of like temporary cave, like it triggers an event where it's just like a cave opening and you have to stay there for like 5 minutes as enemies attack you or something. That would kind of make sense.
Apart from the point, like, why would your drill need to stay there?
Why don't it overheats or something?
Yeah. Ambush.
Yeah.
They're filling the tunnel behind us.
Well, I mean, the whole thing with the enemies in this volcanic island is the big things that you destroy in between the laser drills are basically what's causing the volcano to erupt all the time. And when you destroy them, like an extra lava stream somewhere on the island cools down, which allows you to tunnel through to the next area. So that could make sense for them. Like they've diverted the lava to temporarily obstruct you and cause you to get stuck for a minute. Stay here and fight them. I guess.
Fight.
Yeah. And I think that's more or less it. I don't remember if I talked about... I must have talked about Rise to Ruins last time, because it says 2 weeks ago on my Steam.
Yeah.
That's how you can tell. So I think that's pretty much it. Just a lot of Factorio.
The classic.
And
Game
Stardew.
of the year.
Stardew also takes up a lot of time. We're talking about time spent. Oh, and there was one other thing I did want to talk about in the category of games I haven't been playing / news, I guess.
Right.
Or maybe the category of games I probably will be playing soon, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
No, so YouTube successfully did what it was meant to do and recommended me a video of something new that I was interested in.
Wow, that never happens.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, holy shit.
It usually just recommends the same thing you've watched 2 minutes ago.
Man,
But
it's been doing that with videos that were like 5 years old for me, like thinking I've never watched them, and it's like, no, I've watched this.
Yes, it does tend to also do that. Like bring up old things just in case you want to watch them again. Just in case. But it recommended a video of this new game, which we're going to add it. I guess we have to add it to the genre that is Factorio and, which includes a lot of other games I play.
The factory game genre.
Yeah, well, it's because a lot of them are kind of similar to Factorio. It's like you've got You got Mindustry, where it's Factorio and tower defense. You got Satisfactory, where it's Factorio and a 3D game engine. You got Shapes, which is Factorio and minimalism.
Yeah.
But now you've got this new game called Dyson Sphere Program, which is basically Factorio and Planetary Annihilation.
Oh, okay.
Apart from without like the RTS, it's the style of Planetary Annihilation with like the little planets, and then you fly between them, and you can build individual bases or whatever on each of the individual planets. With obviously the goal of building a Dyson Sphere by firing all that shit into space. But yeah, it looks pretty interesting, and it has the Factorio element, which is what I need, I guess.
I need it.
So I may end up playing that. Although that one is definitely only single player at the moment. I don't know if there's even a plan to make that multiplayer, but that one won't be. But yes, it appears to be kind of interesting. I was thinking about holding off. I held off at least until after launch. Launch of early access also. Still only early access. Maybe I was waiting for reviews because basically it's a Chinese game, and
Right.
it's Tencent adjacent. So there's a certain amount of just wait and see what see if there's any rootkits or whatever. See if it's mining Bitcoin. But it doesn't appear to be, so we're probably good.
I mean, it probably wouldn't run on your PC if it was trying to do that.
Well, no, that's also true. But yeah, maybe I'll get into that. Maybe it's also quite cheap, which is nice, and also a discount at launch of like 10%. But it's still only like £12, which, considering what it looks like, is fairly decent. But then again, remember Planetary Annihilation. Remember how expensive that was for what it looked like.
Remember how it was the unfortunate downfall of Uber?
Well, one of their downfalls.
Yeah.
I actually, I was about to say for some reason, but because presumably I'd looked at Dyson Sphere Program on Steam, the news page for Planetary Annihilation started appearing in my newsfeed again. And I hadn't realised, but like about a year or so ago, it got passed off to a community development team because obviously Uber had their shit happen where they half shut down or whatever, and then they turned into what was it called, Star Theory, that were doing KSP2,
right?
But then that got fucked up as well.
Yeah.
And just sort of turned into some private division, not really company any longer. So apparently at some point during that whole KSP2 transition thing, they just said, we'll just give Planetary Annihilation over to the community developers and they can continue working on it. So it's actually been continuing to get quite a lot of updates according to these news posts.
Interesting.
And also,
if they're community developers, what does this mean? Like,
yeah, I don't actually know. I mean, I presume it's quite easy to just make more maps or whatever. Maybe not so much of the programming, although there does seem to be quite a lot of mentions of like AI updates and stuff. Not that people really care about the AI either, I suppose. It's more about the multiplayer tournaments and that kind of, because it's an RTS. It's like technically multiplayer is what you want, except that's not what I want.
No, it's never really what I've wanted from RTSs.
No.
Aside from that one time they did it in World in Conflict and it was fun.
Yeah. World in Conflict figured it out. But yeah, the community update seems like kind of interesting. And also, when the community team took over, they implemented a permanent 90% discount on the upgrade to Planetary Annihilation Titans, because that was a whole... I don't remember if you remember that, about the whole downfall of Uber when they released the standalone thing that was almost an expansion but wasn't, and it cost as much as the original game, and moved all their development onto it.
Yeah, I kind of remember that. The sequel, not sequel, but is kind of what we're doing now. Yeah.
And then at the time, it was they did give a discount to people who owned the original, but it wasn't it was only a 30% discount. Now it's permanently 90%. If you own the original, you can get the Titans version for 90% off, which I guess is nice, but it's not free, which is probably what it should have been.
Yeah. So, but for like, if you were me, for instance, there's no point getting the first one. You just get the Titans version.
Yeah, you just get the Titans version because because it was that standalone situation that pissed everyone off at the time. There's definitely no reason. I don't think you even can buy the original on Steam any longer. I think they delisted that store page.
That's good. Well, so, I mean, it's very much after the fact, but somewhat salvaged.
Yeah, but not by the actual real developers. Not by the people who originally made those decisions.
Well, this is what I meant by like, what does the community development actually mean? Is like, are people working on it for free? Like, or are these actually like some kind of weird?
Where like, did they actually get like a licensing agreement almost to be like, we will continue working on this as long as we get some money from you? I suppose
it's really odd.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, or they got hired into. Well, I was going to say they got hired into a company, but no company exists any longer.
Yeah.
Who knows? It's a weird disaster, that whole game.
Very strange.
Anyway, that's me done, I guess.
So Dyson Sphere.
Yep, Dyson Sphere program.
Yes.
Kerbal Space Program.
Put a sphere around that star.
It does look pretty cool when you're building the Dyson Sphere, and you can actually see it. Like you can see all the ships and material that you're firing off the planets with railguns flying out into the sphere.
That's cool. Is your perspective always from the inside of the sphere? Or?
No, you're building it from the outside.
Oh. So
you're
when it's
strip mining all the outer planets, I guess.
Because presumably a Dyson Sphere is more interesting on the inside than on the outside.
Well, by the looks of it, it's mostly a solar panel Dyson Sphere rather than like a terrain Dyson Sphere.
Right. So it's just for capturing energy, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess you probably don't need that much real estate.
No, you just need a tiny like thin strip around one of the ring areas, and that would be more than enough.
Plenty of farmland for everyone in Stardew Valley.
Yep.
Right. Rob, what have you been playing, man?
Why, hello there.
He's playing Star Wars.
Yeah, let's just skip straight to that. Let's talk about Jedi Fallen Order. I don't know why I said it like that. I mean, this
like the Emperor.
Order
66.
I mean, that's a key part of the plot here.
Yeah.
Well, yep.
So, Jedi Fallen Order happens, as far as I can tell, pretty soon, or sometime after Order 66 went down, and you play. I want to say his name is Cal Kestis.
Cal Katarn. Okay.
He's called Cal. Cal something. His surname's not important. And who's I don't know. I'm not sure I like his face. I'm just going to put that out there.
I don't like his face and I don't like his hair. He's a generic white dude with stupid red hair.
He's a bit ginger. That's a bit mean to gingerists, but
he may be a Jedi, but he's got no soul.
No, it's more the jawline. The jawline bothers me. I don't know why. I hope that's not based on a real person, and if that is, I'm so sorry. But but if you had a choice about how his face looked, I'm not sure I would have gone with this. Anyway, it just looks like he's gurning the entire time, like just going.
I feel like the lady looks more bug-eyed than the aliens.
Again, like if that's based on someone's face,
well,
I apologize.
It must be something to do with the way that they're scanned, because nobody looks like that.
It's quite extreme. But yeah, it's Star Wars Souls. I mean, it very much is that. So it's for completeness. So it's like they recently put out the a patch for Series X that ups the resolution and makes sure the performance is if you put it in performance mode, it's not quite 4K. It's slightly lower, but you're still getting a resolution bump, and it will keep a pretty decent 60 frames per second most of the time.
Nice.
Yeah, whereas on One X, it's like performance mode would lock to 1080 to get close to 60 most of the time. Yeah, so it's decent. You can still choose to put it into 4K mode if you want, but you'll get a locked 30 frames instead. And I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. I might as well have my frames, and I'm probably not going to notice the slight resolution drop.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's probably a decent choice because it's a good looking game.
Yeah.
It has to be like, just from a technical perspective, it's a damn fine looking thing. There's some nice lighting going on, especially with your lightsaber, and that whips out, and the way the blue casts over everything.
I mean, nowadays I'm kind of looking for like where it's clearly screen space and not and not ray trace, but still, it's nicely done for old style.
Yeah, there's definitely places where you can see that kicking in. Mainly when you're in the interiors, right? And you know how like Imperial design tends to have like little diagonal ledges at the bottom of things. Like there's definitely places where that cuts across a reflect. The diagonal edge will cut across something and screw up a screen space reflection, which can look a bit odd, but you only really see that in your periphery. And as Digital Foundry pointed out, motion blur quality is very high here. Like it's very clean looking motion blur.
So this is where EA
that one at all.
Isn't this where EA let them use Unreal Engine and didn't make them use Frostbite?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is made by Respawn, who historically have had more experience with the Call of Duty styles, Quake engine derived style
Source engine, I guess.
Yeah, Source. I think Titanfall might have been Source engine based. I can't remember.
I think it was, but that's Quake engine anyway, isn't it? So,
so they've had more experience coming at it from that direction. So this is interesting. You know, Respawn taking on Unreal Engine, and you know, for the most part, they do a decent job of it.
The material based rendering stuff, like clothes and stuff, looks so good.
Some of it is phenomenal. Yeah, it's like some of the metallics in particular.
Yeah.
Look really great. There's just something about how they shimmer, like or it's not just like a hard reflection. There's a certain depth to the reflection that's fantastic.
All the environmental stuff looks really, really good. The faces and stuff are not quite Uncharted levels, let's say. But,
no, but they look very. I mean, that's the other point here. Like, I think they've done Star Wars pretty good. You know, so it's a pretty like well-established aesthetic, but they've done a damn good job here keeping that. They do the thing that, like we mentioned when we talked about Mandalorian before, that, you know, the Mandalorian takes the approach where it's like, we're not going to do the Star Wars music thing. We're going to make it sort of a bit different. And this is very much in the Star Wars camp of orchestral music, and like, you know, you'll hear the what is it, the sort of motif every now and then. You'll hear that quite a bit. So
it's,
you know,
it's kind of halfway. It doesn't do the full Mandalorian approach of like completely.
No, and as a result, it's just there. You know what I mean? It's not in your face Star Wars obnoxiousness, but it's not good enough to stand on its own either. You know what I mean? It's just there.
Yeah.
But I like the way all the sort of like the menus look. They've got an interesting style to that as well. Whereas
I like that when you die, it says respawn.
Yeah,
because it's respawn.
Just in massive letters
in a game. Do any games use the word respawn anymore?
I don't know. I mean, they even describe that that's how what the enemies do when you visit a bonfire equivalent.
Yeah.
It's like it just straight up says enemies have respawned, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't think of any games that use that word actually in the game. So that's quite funny.
Yeah, I mean, they're very much. I mean, it's weird at times. So yeah, it's a Souls game. Effectively, you've got a more deliberate combat system than you might expect, and also there are meditation points, which are actually like bonfires, and let you spend your skill points and things to upgrade and stuff like that. But if you sit down and rest there, enemies will respawn, and you'll gain all your health back, and you'll gain all your Estus Flask equivalents back, your stims. And sometimes those points can be pretty damn close to enemies. like hilariously so. Sometimes you like clean out an area that is basically surrounded by stormtroopers, and there'll be a meditation point in the middle of it, and you'll meditate, and then suddenly you're surrounded by stormtroopers.
They just
again.
reappear.
It's really bizarre.
Blood moon rises once again.
Yeah,
I think that was something that Dark Souls normally did better. Was like
Yeah.
have the bonfires not be directly next to enemies,
yeah.
have them be a
It's-
bit out of the way.
It's kind of nuts. It's a bit stupid, but I think that they are trying to do like Dark Souls light. The meditation points are never that far apart. So at the moment, it's like a short jaunt between them. There are some segments where it's been a little tricky and it's been frustrating to repeat bits, but it's way more forgiving than what I've seen of Dark Souls for that.
Mm.
It even does the whole corpse run thing is a little bit lighter as well here, in that you only have to the enemy that killed you will be highlighted. So you only have to land a single damaging hit on them, and you'll get all your experience back.
Okay.
And it also restores your life at that moment. So if you've had if the enemy that killed you was at the end of a run, say, or between bonfires, I'm going to keep calling them that because it's easier to say than meditation points.
It's easier.
If you're at the end of a run and then you got killed by some harder enemy at the end of it, it's like it's fine. You can still have a rough run up there, and as soon as you hit that guy, you're back on level terms with them.
Right.
And you can focus on that fight, which is kind of cool in the sense that it makes it less punishing. Because the way the combat works in that game is you could die incredibly quickly.
Right.
So I'm playing. I did that thing where like it has one of those difficulty pickers that describes what the game's like. And there's 4 levels to choose from, and I'm on level 3 because
Heroic.
it's like a bit like Halo's Heroic, because its description was a bit more like, oh, you're not afraid of an action game and you like a bit of a challenge, and it's like, whereas the one down it was like you're kind of new to action games, and then the one before that was story mode. It's like combat is trivial, and it's like, well, okay, I clearly want the third option. It's harder than I thought. It really is. It's like it's like. You walk into a fight you're maybe not prepared for, and you can get rocked fast. Partly because I've not played a Souls game before.
Right. I mean,
So-
God of War is Souls light in a way.
It's Soulsy,
Sort of.
but like it's even God of War's combat is far more forgiving than this. Like, so if you do an attack, you have to give yourself a good window before you can block properly. You can't block a meet. It's not like Bayonetta where you can just crank out a dodge at any time. It's like you've got to only attack really when it makes sense. Spamming is not your friend. But it extends to things like it has a parry system where if you block at just the right moment, then you'll stagger them back and things like that. Enemies tend not to do the stupid thing of all standing around waiting for you like Assassin's Creed, so getting surrounded is a big problem for you to deal with.
Yeah, because they actually hit you.
Yeah. And I do find myself fighting the camera in situations like that as well. So it's like it all compounds to being kind of difficult. Or at least I'm finding it tricky. And then you've got that whole corpse run thing, meaning it's like if you feel like you've gone down a road that perhaps you shouldn't have, and it's like, okay, well, maybe I'm in a fight that I shouldn't be doing right now. Because of the whole corpse run thing, you may find yourself in a situation that's like, well, I'll probably have to go do that fight, otherwise I'm not going to get all my experience. I want my skill points, yo.
Well, you just have to run up and hit them and then just run away again.
And then try and run away. Yeah, you can do that too. So I think that there are certain elements that I really struggle with in the combat. The parry timing in particular feels kind of off to me. Like sometimes it works great. Like parrying lasers seems super easy, but I think the window must change depending on certain enemies and certain attacks, maybe, because there are definitely some enemies where it's just like, okay, I really don't know how to parry you, or if I can, and like because you have to lift off your block maybe to then press it back down to do a parry. I don't know if that approach is actually viable, like, or if I'm supposed to have lifted off for a period of time before I attempt to parry, stuff like that. Because there are times where I'll just be doing that and I'm just getting hit, and I'm like, I'm not quite sure what I did wrong there. The game hasn't been particularly good at teaching me
on the
whether-
timing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does
Whether
it do
that's-
that thing
that's-
where it's got like unblockable red attacks or whatever?
It does, yes. There's unblockable reds as well that you must dodge out of the way, and some of those are kind of annoying at times because the window it gives you to get out of there's been a couple of enemies that have had AoE attacks, and it's like, well, they've not been marked as unblockable. They are technically unblockable because they're
Right.
AoE, and some of those have been a little tricky to escape from in time. If you're doing damage and then they suddenly bust that out, it's like, oh god, no. Oh, there was no way to avoid that. And it's very harsh about things like iframes and stuff like that. So when you get hit, you can pretty much just keep getting hit until until you're back up and standing. You don't really have a block capability. So there are certain times where it just feels like you can just get pretty unlucky, and the attacks that an enemy will use will just down you if you get hit once. Or at least that's how it feels like in my experience. It's like, oh, I've been bitten. Oh, now I'm on the floor. Now he's doing the bite attack again. Oh, I'm not quite standing up yet. Oh, he's bitten me again. And now I'm on the floor again. And then it's pretty harsh with that. Especially if you're surrounded by multiple people as well. Which I guess is more realistic. Not necessarily more fun. There's definitely been plenty of moments where I've just sort of like and I'm not that far into the game. Like, there's been plenty of moments where I'm just sort of been like, really, you son of a bitch.
Really?
You also have block stamina as well. So even if you are surrounded and you're like, oh god, what do I do? It's
That's
like you can't.
very Soulsy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that. You don't have attack stamina. That's not there, but it's block stamina here. And any of your fancy attacks that use force powers, that is on a meter as well. But that meter doesn't recharge over time. You have to do damage in order to recharge your force.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I mean, obviously not.
I mean,
hard, but cool.
I mean, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, from both from the standpoint of the force.
Right. Are you?
Like,
I mean, you start murdering people immediately. I mean, you're pretty dark side.
Yeah.
In this
I
game.
mean, you're murdering stormtroopers. In fairness, like, you're not murdering regulars.
Yeah, but I mean, you never. I don't know. You're murdering a lot of stormtroopers, and they're not clones. Yeah. They're just recruits, right? Anyway,
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
They all sound the same. They all have the same voice.
Yeah, but they weren't worried about that until the prequels, where they invented robots.
Yeah,
to make an excuse to why you can have to kill people all the time. Yeah. They're not people any longer.
Yeah.
But the original Star Wars, they didn't care about that. They were just bad guys.
Yeah, but you also didn't have a badass Jedi murdering everyone in the original Star Wars trilogy.
Well,
I mean, it just didn't happen at all.
A little bit in the third film. There was a little bit of murdering going on.
Quite a bit, I thought, in there. Yeah, by the end of it. But...
Who's Luke murdering in Jedi? Like, he's fighting the people in chucking them in the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, I mean, that probably counts.
And then he doesn't even fight on Endor. He just gives himself up immediately.
I mean, I think we can say he indirectly causes the explosion of Jabba's entire barge.
Right.
I mean, he kills countless millions when he blows up the Death Star. So.
Well, yeah, that, obviously.
I was single-handed. But yeah, and he did technically use the Force to do that, so...
and some TIE fighters and whatnot, some individual soldiers happening there.
Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, that's just a war, isn't it?
Because fighting stormtroopers wouldn't have been.
No, I just mean slicing up a million stormtroopers with a lightsaber.
True. That wasn't really done, I guess, in the original trilogy. But...
Anyway, I'm just saying that you dealing damage and letting the hate flow through you and building up your force powers kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course, canonically, this guy's a good guy, but I'm just saying he murders everyone immediately. Just like you could say about Uncharted I mean, Dark Souls. I mean, that guy, he's killing a bunch of crazy undead things. He's definitely relatively a good guy compared to, I don't know.
Bloodborne guy.
Yeah, Bloodborne guy. mean, they're all monsters.
I mean, most of the stormtroopers are having pretty casual conversations as well as you're wandering around, and then you're just like stab, stab, stab.
Yeah, pretty brutally as well. He
least
didn't
with
think
the,
to just mind trick them and just wander past. Anyway.
He seems like a pretty rubbish Jedi, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't. He didn't. That his whole thing is, I don't think he necessarily reached Jedi status. I think he was a Padawan.
Yeah, he didn't get the lesson from Yoda about not murdering everyone.
Yeah, I mean, they skip that bit. Yeah, so because he's kind of, which leads me to one of the most like odd choices in that he seems to have forgotten all his force powers until arbitrary moments where he decides they're useful. Like you'll wander along a bit of a sort of cave network, and you'll see these insect or sort of lizardy things running along the walls, and then he'll suddenly have a flashback to his training where it's like, oh, I can run on certain walls using force to help hold me up. And then it's like suddenly Wall Run is unlocked, and you're like, great, I knew that was coming because I've seen lots of footage of Wall Run being a thing, and there's obvious places where Wall Run would be a thing because it's highlighted in the world, and it's like, now you choose to use it? Great, thanks.
It's like, I'm in a game developed by the people who made Titanfall.
Yeah, it's got to have a Wall Run. But
mean,
yeah,
there's
there's
going to be a story explanation though.
no,
Is he going to have weird amnesia that only comes back a bit at a time or something?
I mean, I don't think amnesia's a thing. He seems well aware of his lot. You know, it's bizarre. Like, yeah, the same thing happens with Force Push later on, where you just suddenly remember you can push things, except you haven't been able to up to this point because it would have meant you'd have had to have done some puzzles the easy way.
So it's like a Metroid unlock ability thing. Yeah,
except you're not even doing the work to find them. You're just you don't feel smart.
Yeah, I forgot. I can just knock these things over.
Yeah, it's so dumb. It really,
That's quite dumb.
It's pretty dumb, and it's not even really doing the Metroid thing well in the sense of there's plenty of crates around the world that you can find, and they feel like secrets some of the time, like the way you have to get to them. It's like it's off the beaten path. Oh, I had to do a thing to get to this crate, and then you rummage in it, and every single one of them is a cosmetic.
Oh.
Like, none of them are useful. They're like, you can change the color of your poncho. Fantastic. You can change the handle on your lightsaber, which you cannot see at any point during normal gameplay, except for when you go to the customized lightsaber screen. Because it's so tiny in your hand.
Right.
It's
I mean,
stupid.
if it was Red Dead, I'd be excited to get a poncho, but in
Yeah,
Jedi Fallen Order, I don't think I can.
The cosmetic system's really dumb, and then like it's made extra dumb by the fact that EA clearly had their hand on it a little bit, because if at the very start of the game, if you open up that menu and you look at the customization options, and it'll be like, oh, there's 2 things here I can't access because they're premium content, and like I can have premium pointless customizations. But it's
At
the
least
most
they don't
pointless.
affect the game.
No, but they are the most pointless.
Yeah.
You can change the color of BD1 if you want. BD1's kind of cool.
Yeah.
As far as droids go, he's pretty cool.
And it kind of makes sense from a gameplay point of view as well.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about how Cal and BD1 interact is like when you ask, BD1 carries your stim packs, and so when you request and like Cal shouts at BD1 to give him one, effectively. But sometimes that shout and that exchange just feels so weird. Like he says thank you pretty much every time afterwards as well, and it's just like in the middle of a fight, it's like you're just going thanks while stabbing a dude.
Right.
It's really strange. And there are other times where Cal seems so desperate for a stim that he just sort of screams, help me! And it's like, this doesn't feel very Jedi right now.
I need an Estus flask.
Yeah, help me! And the funniest times are where you've just won a fight and he's still sort of in fight stance, and you request a stim pack and he's like, help me! And it's like, there's no danger right now.
So you're not like, boy!
Boy, drug me.
Drug me, boy. That'd be weird if what's his name? Atreus? No, what was his name?
Kratos.
Yeah, what's the son's name?
Oh, it is Atreus. Yeah, you.
Atreus, yeah, was like responsible for healing Kratos.
That would be a bit odd. Pass me my herbs.
Shoot him with a heal arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I'm discovering areas that are like I can't do anything in. Like it's got some of that where like this third area, the third place I've been to seems to be quite large, and I'm sure there's plenty of stuff here that maybe I shouldn't be trying to do yet. It's hard to know.
Some of the names of stuff is hilarious. Star Wars, like the second planet. What's it called?
Bogona.
It's like Bogano or something.
Something like that.
Bogona.
It's a bog-ish.
Yeah. So Star Warsy.
And then I'm on Zepho right now. Or I'm exploring the depths of Zepho.
I thought that like that opening sequence was cool, and I like the concept of the scrapyard where they're turning old Clone Wars ships and stuff into Imperial stuff.
Yeah,
it was really
with
cool.
no health and safety.
Yeah, no health and safety. I didn't like the giant waste disposal Sarlacc. I think that's what that was.
I'm guessing that's what it was. Yeah,
that's a really stupid idea.
It's just sort of there. There are a couple of technical problems here and there. Like I was praising the technicals at the start, but there are a few issues here and there. If there is the occasional hitch randomly, and again, Digital Foundry pick up on that as well, and it's arbitrary. It seems to be just in certain spots or movement between certain areas, you'll get a hitch. I've noticed that cuts, especially in cutscenes, can look janky. Like it's like the camera cuts, but it hasn't loaded in the objects for where the camera is pointing quite yet, and they pop in a frame or two later.
Right.
So they end up looking a bit funny, or the other way around. I think it unloads objects too early sometimes before it cuts.
That's the classic bugginess from Sonic Boom. That's their whole problem with their cutscenes.
Yeah, it's there's a bit of that, and I wonder if it's because the game, I guess, was designed to target 30 maybe, and so some of that stuff would be invisible at 30 frames because it would be or less noticeable maybe.
I mean, I was watching it, on a base PS4 on a 1080p TV at 30, and like it looks pretty nice. At least that opening sequence. Obviously, it looked massively better at 60 on a 4K TV on a Xbox Series X. But yeah, so it's amazing what they can get out of that old hardware.
Yeah, I imagine it's pretty decent on a. I mean, even on the 4 Pro or the 1X version, I imagine that looks pretty damn nice. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's good on them for doing the update in the first place. Actually, there's a hilarious there is a bug in that the performance mode still has the tagline on it that says lock the game to 1080p and to get 60 frames per second, and it's like, yeah, on Series X it's better than 1080p.
Right, yeah.
It's like that's not that tag isn't true on Series X.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bit of copy they didn't change. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's all right.
Yeah,
like I'm not sure I'm taken with how it plays, which probably means I'd never be taken by a Souls game if this is like a very light.
Well, I wouldn't know about that. I mean, maybe Souls games are better when they are raw and hard, right? Maybe you'd have more fun if it was Dark Souls and you got your ass kicked and it was more pure,
Yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't be put off the whole genre by like a rip-off game. I mean, even if it's well made.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's like there are just times where like it's obviously when you encounter a new enemy, you're going to struggle, right? And it's like that's pretty much a given here. It's like if you discover something you've never seen before, it's like you're pretty much going to die. Yeah, especially when I stumbled upon a random purge trooper in a cave, and it's just like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting you here. Oh, I'm so dead right now. And then I went back and then beat him the second time. But it's just like, yeah, there's plenty of that. The first time you find stuff, but then it's also one of those games where it's entirely possible to, because it's high damage pretty much to everyone, not just to you. You can something that was giving you a headache, you can get right and avoid all damage completely, and it's quite satisfying when you do that and be like, oh, this thing that was giving me a headache before, I can just murder you now with nothing but skill, because the skill tree is kind of rubbish, really. You're not gaining a huge amount from that, or at least it doesn't feel like I'm gaining much from that. It's like, the game seems to be what it is in terms of the combat. I just kind of wish there was a bit more to it, if you know what I mean. Like more layers to it. It's like it's very superficial.
Yeah, when I saw it playing it was better than I expected, I think. But I was still like, because when they first announced that Respawn was making a Star Wars game, I was pretty excited. But I was never excited enough to actually, once it actually came out, to actually bother, because it's like, it looks a bit generic.
Yeah, it's decent, but I don't think it's as good as perhaps it could have been. Which you could probably say about every game ever, but that statement, it's not as good as it could have been. It's like, everything could always be better. So I spent a bit of time with that. Still doing a bit of Galaxy Trundle here and there. Not too much this time, last 2 weeks. I didn't really go back to that too much. I'm getting to the point where I don't know if this is there's a bit of a story, and this might be minor spoilery, where every time I jump, I'm gaining a glyph, and because of the whole thing around 16, I don't know if I was like, does this mean I've got like a limited number of jumps before I die or something? Or
no, I think you just get all the glyphs.
Oh, okay. It's just giving them to me.
Yeah, because previously you had to go and find those. Like, you got those off the travelers' graves, and those are like super rare.
Well,
so they just, as usual, with No Man's Sky, they implemented a completely different system that's way easier, but did get rid of the old one.
Yeah, I don't know, because it started doing that at the point where I learned what 16 meant.
Yeah,
and it's like, so I was a little bit like, oh, is this some definition of time now? Oh, but no, so I'm glad that's not a thing, because there's no way I'm gonna be able to achieve that. I don't know. I haven't really I bought another frigate. That's about it. I got 3 now. What else is going on? I tried the Pandemic board game for Xbox.
Oh,
because it's on Game Pass. And when we were, because we tried zooming one and zooming a co-op game of Pandemic, the real board game, and which was mostly successful.
Did you have 2 copies of it, or did you have to...
No. One person was streaming it through multiple camera angles.
Oh, cool.
So they had like a camera set up to look at the cards, so everyone could see what was in their hand, because it's co-op. It doesn't matter. You don't have to hide them. And they had another camera rigged to a light hanging from the ceiling with a bit of cardboard box and some kebab skewers to hold a phone in to zoom the board. But due to something awkward with Zoom, it was zooming it in portrait mode rather than horizontally, so that was a bit of a problem. And the result of that meant that it was kind of difficult for everyone to see where the disease cubes were. But it's a functioning way to play that game. It was fine. You can get stuff for tabletops. I've done that as well, and that works pretty well. I was writing "Oh Hi Mumbai" on the board. So the video game version is functional, but it's bad. As in, it plays like Pandemic. The rule set's all there, but it tutorializes itself pretty poorly for those who want to try and learn it. It's not good for that. Also, the presentation just sucks. It's like they looked at all the fonts in the world, including the one that the game actually is sort of uses, and thought, "Nah, we're good with Arial."
Oh no!
would just like have like generic. It's like when you put a counter down in Games Factory or whatever, and it's just that red number.
Oh right, yeah.
It's like the whole UI kind of just is awful, really. And
Oh,
it's
dear.
like even the bits they did put effort into, they didn't really think through. Like, so the main game screen has a bar at the bottom. Oops, mashed the mic with my hand. Has like a bar at the bottom, which gives you your choices you can pick. And a massive section on the left-hand side that shows you the hands of every one of the playable roles at the moment. So you can basically see what everyone's got, which is functionally makes sense, except the font size is really big, so it takes up a huge amount of screen real estate for that. Too much screen real estate to the point where the game doesn't. If there's a city that's at the bottom of the map, like the bottom of Africa or the bottom of South America or something like that, or Sydney, I think even. It's hidden by UI at
Wow,
all times.
that's insane.
Like you can poke
What
at
the
it
hell?
and you know the game's reacting to it, but you can't zoom in and then scroll down because like the way the game zooms, it seems to manage to somehow always cut off those cities. It's terrible.
That is shocking.
It's like, how did it even? I mean, they even went to the effort of putting the pandemic expansions in here, and they function, and with the extra roles and stuff like that. And they work. They give you some challenges and ways of making the game harder. Because I beat it the first time I played it, which maybe I was supposed to do. I don't know. Maybe the game was going easy on me for the first time you play it. It's hard to tell. But yeah, then they forget to do that, and it's I don't know why they decided to well, I don't know why they decided to do that. And the bits of UI they changed to make it, for this version, I don't know why they didn't just use some of the graphics and artwork that's actually on the board, like for things like the infection counter and the and your outbreak meters and things like that. Like, to make it more authentic to the board game, you could have just used the style they did and have them appear on screen when it matters, or have a way of accessing that. Or instead they just go for very boring, like, blank color markers at the top of the screen, and it's a terrible presentation. It's like, it functionally works, but it's a terrible presentation, and it's bad. Just don't.
Yep. Tabletop Simulator all the way.
Yeah, maximum disappoint. Although the problem with Tabletop Simulator is those are technically free mods, so you're not supporting Pandemic if you do that. Just letting you know.
Buy the game as well. The physical game.
Yeah, might as well get the real thing. It's cool. What else I've been doing? Played a bit more Fuser. I'm finding that game more annoying than fun now because of its stupid campaign. That game is such a bummer. Like, because, as I said before, the tools are great, and being able to mix nightmare mashups is pretty cool. And the tools are way more advanced than what you got with DropMix on your phone and things like that. And you dropping effects on channels. There's a riser button that you can use to do a dramatic build up and then cue into a completely different set of mashup that you've had pre-prepared, and things like that. And it's the tools are great. The game sucks.
Aww.
Like, I'm at the point now where it's like it's asking you to do too much already. Like, so you've got your coming back to what I said, like the main gameplay flow is like you've got a stash of stuff at the top of the screen that you can a selection of music basically, and you can pick stems from to drop onto your DJ decks.
Right.
But it's got to the point where the amount of time you get to do there are instructions and requests. So the instructions are what you absolutely need to do that are fixed for that particular level that you're playing. Like, right. So it will be like, all right, you need to queue up a couple of drum loops, for instance, and drop them in at the same time, or make sure you drop in a lyric on a pickup point, which is not at the end of a bar, but that's like a specific point where it makes sense for that track to suddenly start.
Okay.
So yeah, drop in at a pickup point to do this. Use an effect on this channel. Swap between 2 different vocalists on a channel a few times during this thing, and it gives you a time limit in which to do all that. Whilst you're doing that, the crowd can suddenly shout requests at you. Now these are pretty awkward because they'll be like, pick something from this genre, which means you've got to look at your crate at the top of the screen, which for tracks can go over 3 different pages. And then find something in there that's in a specific genre, which is fine. But then normally there's more than one request at a time. So it'd be like, I'll pick something from the genre. Oh, and also play something from the 90s. And it takes you a little bit of time to scan through that list to be like, to looking at the dates, looking at the track names, because sometimes someone will ask for a specific track as well. And unless you've memorized what the album art looks like, that takes a bit of time. Or the other way to do it, I suppose, is to meticulously plan what is in your crate at the start of every level, which is boring. I don't really want to be doing that. I don't want to be like building up a specific arrangement just so I know where everything is. But that seems to be what you have to do if you want to score well. And there just comes a point where the requests are coming in thick and fast, and the instructions are coming in, and the instructions have their time limits, and it feels like there's too much to do. Like I can't read through the music list to fill the requests whilst doing the things it's asking me to do to play the set how it wants to play the set. And I don't like the way it also suggests because it's the tools are good, it makes you want to play with them. Like you want to drop effects at appropriate moments and to sound cool, but what it actually wants you to do them is at the end of every bar. So it'll be on the 1 beat, effectively 1 2 3 4 1. So you want to be drop and start an effect, wait for a bar, release the effect at the end of the bar, when actually it's no, I just want to pick out this stupid bit of vocal and make it all phasey and weird. And it's but it doesn't like that because it thinks you're not doing it in time.
Right.
So it's
Even
the game
it's
part.
A cool creative thing that you want.
Yeah.
To do.
It constantly feels like the game is fighting its tools, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
And of course, because the campaign is a massive tutorial and things unlock through you leveling up your player, I've got to play through the tutorial. I've got to play through the campaign to unlock everything.
Right. In order to get those access to the full set of tools, you have to play it the way it wants, which is not as fun as it ought to be.
Unless I pay money for their DLC, which there already is a lot of. But you're talking $1.50 per track or something like that to add 4 stems to the system, and it's on average, and that adds up pretty quick. Still probably better value for money than Dropmix was, if that's that's the metric I'm using. But still, it's lost a lot of cool as a result. You know what I mean? Dropmix is cool. This is somehow a lot less cool, even though what you're doing is better. What you can do is better. It's
right.
It's bizarre. It's a weird thing. I mean, definitely. I'm tapping my foot to it the whole time.
Yeah, of course.
The audio experience is exactly.
Audio.
Yeah. The audio experiences. However, I don't know. There are certain tracks which seem extremely difficult to make work. Like dropping Paul Van Dyk's For an Angel into anything is actually surprisingly difficult because its chord progression just obliterates everything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Lady Marmalade is surprisingly versatile.
That's been remixed quite a few times.
Yeah. It's got some DMX in there, so everyone's happy.
Bouncing.
Unfortunately, it's not X going to give it to you. I'd really like that if that was there.
That would be ridiculous. So many memes.
X gonna give it to you.
Fuck, waiting for you to get it on your own. It's gonna deliver it to you. So stupid.
Love it. Yeah, played a bit more Pacer. That is what it is. Nothing to say there. I think that might be it, unless I'm forgetting. Oh no, Gnome and I finished Valiant Hearts. Finally, we went back and actually did the final chapter of that the other night. because it's a war game, do not expect it to end well.
Right.
Which is, yeah, hugely unsurprising. But Nova was all like, "Well, that's cheery."
So cheery.
Yeah, it's good given that the last section has you climbing up, mountains of corpses. It's but also reminded me, I'd quite like to see more UbiArt stuff.
Yeah.
Still, there was what happened to UbiArt or UbiArt.
I guess it was just those Rayman games. Yeah.
It was Rayman Legends, Rayman Origins, this, and what was the other one? Child of Light was also UbiArt as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's which was a decent game as well. So yeah, all of the UbiArt games, all of them good. They should have carried on that initiative. And I think that's me. Oh no, wait, there is one more thing. Just remembered, Hot Shot Racing. They released some free DLC. They put out 4 more tracks for it, which are all right. Yep, okay. These are more difficult tracks than all of the previous ones, but they're still not that interesting. And it means it just highlights the game's problems. Like when you put difficult tracks, seem to highlight games' problems. I think, like,
I mean, that's natural, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like in this case, it's that races are run or lost depending on whether or not the AI decides to mercilessly ram you. And because like the lines are quite tight and the AI seems to not take the lines you want to take, you're getting hit quite a bit. And sometimes those hits can be nasty and put you into slides in directions you don't want to be in. And it's it ends up being a bad time in expert mode. Still did it. Still got those expert chivos, but still. What is a cool addition though is they added this mode called Barrel Barrage that is simple really, but it actually is kind of fun, and that they're at every checkpoint everyone gets the ability to drop an explosive barrel behind them, and everyone has a limited amount of health for the entire race. So then makes the tracks far more awkward to navigate in a kind of fun way.
Oh, right. Okay. That's cool.
Because if everyone's dropping a barrel at every checkpoint, it's like that's maybe 24 barrels being added every lap. So it's quite a bit. And that's quite good. I quite like that.
Quite good. Quite good.
Yeah, I'll stop now.
Right. How are we doing? Oh, not bad. I got back to Link's Awakening, which I've stopped in the middle of. So I'm just playing a bit of that, doing that Angler Cave or whatever, which I couldn't figure out how to get into. And you don't need any kind of key at all to get into that dungeon. You just have to be aware that, like, although it's surrounded by rocks, the entrance, you just need to go up to a certain rock and it goes into one of those 2D bits, right? And then you just go under it, which I wasn't aware of.
2D bits?
You know, it goes side-scrolling sometimes in Link's Awakening.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's weird. It sort of jumps into a bit like Zelda 2 or whatever. Occasionally, it goes
weird.
Sideways. Yeah,
it's that reference I can Binding of Isaac.
Yeah.
Did I wait? What?
Sometimes when you bomb a rock, there's a staircase under it, and then it goes into a side-scroll side. Like it has gravity suddenly.
Really? Wow, never said that. Is that in Rebirth? Or...
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
Well, actually,
not the original.
Yeah, I guess it must. No, it might have been in the original. It might just be more rare.
Huh? Yeah, I've never seen that. Not that I played much of it, but I've never seen anyone else playing it see that. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, cool. So did Link's Awakening have that originally?
It's all a completely faithful remake, pretty much.
Right.
Apart from the fact it has like weird Unreal Engine physics sometimes. I think it's Unreal Engine, isn't it?
Is it?
Link's Awakening. Yeah.
I'd have assumed it would have been just a generic Nintendo engine or something.
I'm pretty sure for some reason they used Unreal, which is quite weird. But they did.
I wonder if they thought this was like, oh, is Unreal Engine good for us? Maybe we need an experiment project to try it.
I mean, it works really well, but I mean, it looks really good and everything. This like the 3D, like the version of the art style and everything
with tilt shift and all that.
Yeah, the only problem is it occasionally drops frames, right? Which is like,
Yeah.
why? It's so stupid. But anyway, yeah, I shall continue with the classic, which I half remember the solutions from the 90s. So, because I had the DX version on the Game Boy Color.
That's cool.
I never played the original black and white Game Boy version.
I mean, it's one of those series where I think at some point I really should put the time in and go back and do the original. Like, I never played the NES original, which I know is a bit of a slog now. Like, I never played that, and I never played Zelda 2, which is the weird one.
The obvious one is Link to the Past.
Link to the Past, yeah. Because I only played the only version of that I played was Link Between Worlds, which is pretty much the same, but
yeah, similar.
But yeah, Link Between Worlds would be a good one to play. I'm sorry, Link to the Past.
Yeah, Link to the Past is an absolute classic, isn't it? And that's like a big one, right? Yeah.
Is that not on the Switch yet?
It probably is on the.
Don't know.
I think it is on the weird. What's it called?
It's on my SNES Classic, so I've got no
SNES
excuse.
Classic.
Well, okay, yeah, there's that too.
I think it's on the.
I think pretty much everything from SNES Classic has made it to the Switch Live.
Yeah, that thing.
SNES button.
Yeah.
Even Star Fox 2 is now available on the Switch. So the whole Classic's original selling point is now on Switch. Other than the Classic being cool.
And the only other thing I've played is Deus Ex. So check out our YouTube channel for random Deus Ex videos and Factorio videos and various others. Portal 2 videos.
Obra Dinn.
And Obra Dinn videos. Plenty of those. And yeah. And I think
Link to the Past is on Switch.
Random shout out to the Collision Software videos if you want to check out what we were talking about when we talked about Games Factory earlier.
Yeah, if you want to know about Games Factory, check out all the weird games that we used to make with
The
our
red counter of
3-part
doom.
series. Yeah.
The red number counter.
And I guess that'll do for a podcast. Wow.
Yeah.
Quite a short one.
We had less random.
And less news.
It's
Again.
true.
And less news, yeah.
Yeah, cool. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another Salcast. So
Are you getting worried about packing, Dan?
Well,
Just extending with a bit of random.
There's a lot of things that I'm not thinking about until the moment that it's like certain, which might come like sometime next week, I hope. And as soon as that happens, I'm going to be like, okay, well, I need to, set up a bunch of bill providers and stuff and do packing. My difference is that, like, because I'm renting, right, I'm going to have it overlap, so it's going to be quite relaxed, and it's literally down the street, so I can like carry stuff.
Yeah,
it's slightly
that's
different.
That's the thing. I know we already know my move is going to be a bit of a pain.
People do it. People do it all the time.
Oh yeah, I know. But we've got like a hard time. We've got to be out by on the day.
Yeah,
so it's
that's how it works.
midday. So that's not a lot of time to actually do stuff like on the day. So we're gonna.
But it's the same for the people in the place you're moving into, right? I presume.
I don't know. That's the thing. Maybe they move out the day before. So there's like, I don't know. It's all to be negotiated, I guess. But like,
I think it's
weird.
that 12 p.m. completion time, isn't it? That seems to be the standard.
Yeah, that doesn't. Can it be a bit later than that?
I think it can be changed, but I think that is the standard.
Yeah, it's a bit scary. Like, we'll have to get storage, I reckon, because we're trying to save a bit of money because it's costing quite a lot to do this.
Yeah,
and
of course.
It's already, and we haven't even done anything. So like we've got an ex-removal man friend who's offered
convenient.
to help, and and technically that's in the rules. You're allowed one other household to assist with a move.
Yeah, that's
if you're not using a removals firm, so there'll be van hiring to do, and it will still work out cheaper than using removals.
Yeah.
But that does mean we'll need some planning and some amount of we'll need to store this stuff for a while, and find people that have garages.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've got quite a bit more stuff than me. But I'm
Yeah, it's
still
gonna be a
have to move
challenge.
a few things. Yeah. But the
But okay.
some of the big things I have, like my guitars and amplifier, they come with handles,
Yeah.
and cases and things. Like,
Well, that's the good thing about all the console boxes.
yeah,
It's like they've all got handles. It's great.
yeah. It's convenient.
Yeah, it's just all this other it's all the random stuff, I think, that you don't really think about. Things that are just on
Exactly.
shelves,
Yeah,
like trinkets and things in drawers, and it's like, oh yeah, well, that's got to get boxed up somehow. Well, I suppose a drawer is basically a box, so I can just you can just transplant what's in that drawer into a box, and then
I think last time I moved my desk out of a room into a different room, I just literally took the drawers out of the desk and took the whole drawer as a container, just like that.
yeah.
The thought crossed my mind, but I think we've got some of our drawers are like the types where they're screwed in, and I was like, I can't be asked to dismantle those. And some of them are like fully removable, yeah. But they're like our clothes drawers and things like that. So
What I've got, and I might get some more of, is some of those Muji plastic drawers, which I
yes,
can
yeah, I know the
literally
ones.
move, because I might get more, because I have a bunch of other drawers full of stuff, and when I move to a new place, I won't have drawers because I need to buy furniture. So I will have
Yeah.
space, but no. So I might have temporary drawers in the shape of Muji plastic drawers.
Oh yeah, that's the other side of this. Like, do I have to dismantle bits of furniture?
Yeah.
as well.
I'm gonna have to take my
Like-
desk apart, and but that
Oh,
should
I'm not,
work.
I don't think I can take my desk apart. That's the problem, because it's like it's a bit ropey now.
Right.
So it's like I don't think that's going to be able to come apart without and
Yeah.
be reassembled. I don't think we took it apart when we moved from across the road.
Oh, you
last
just
time.
sort of moved it in one piece.
Yeah, I think we did that with everything. Actually,
I
we
mean, I
didn't
think
really
that's-
take it.
Possibly part of the reason why it's ropey.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, things like that. Kitchen table. Is that going to have to be taken apart? Is the all this glass and metal coffee tables and end tables and the TV stand? Is all that going to have to be
Those
taken
things
apart?
that you keep saying you're going to get rid of at some point.
Yeah, but we never will.
Well, hope you enjoyed this extra slice of random, and we'll update you on our moving progress.
An extra slice of
in
the
following
great British move off.
podcasts.
If the next podcast isn't when you expect it to be, you know something happened.
You know something happened, because I didn't get BT didn't install my internet for 4 weeks, probably.
I'll tell you what, that is the biggest worry.
Yeah, I know.
It's like I can't even work if that's
Yeah.
not a thing.
That will be a big problem. That might be the first thing I do when I get it confirmed.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catch you next time, listeners.
Bye.
Bye.